All right, we are ready to talk NASCAR, condensed version with All-Star Week, even though Eric is live from Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which has nothing to do with the NASCAR Cup Series, at least for this year. I know they're talking about...
Well, till July.
Yeah.
The road course race.
Yeah, we do have the road course race coming up, yes. And they're talking about coming back with the Brickyard as well, which I know the fans aren't happy about that, but there's a new car, so... we'll see how that goes. Anyway, how's it going, Eric? How's the weather?
It's foggy. I was going to say wet, but it's not raining anymore. It rained pretty much all morning, and now they are drying the track. It's looking good. Maybe a little chance to rain later, and then the rest of the week's supposed to be pretty good. So I think we'll see some cars eventually on track here later today.
All right, now a couple of things we're going to talk about. A few things. We don't usually have time to talk a lot about futures and fantasy, so we'll get caught up on that, on our futures and our fantasy team, and obviously how that reflects for any of the viewers out there for your own futures ideas and things of that nature, your own fantasy teams. And we'll go over the rules for the All-Star race. You got so what is it? We have the Open and the All-Star race, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So if the guys that aren't already qualified, which are your normal guys, they got the Open to qualify, just like they normally have at Charlotte and then Bristol and Texas, to qualify your way into the big show. And then the big show is a lot more simplified this year. Finally, they're gonna throw a caution around lap 100, so halfway, 200 lap race.
How many miles?
I mean,
how many miles is track?
It's a point. I got it right here. It's like a 0.6.
Wow.
Oh,
so it's really
0.65.
really short.
Yeah. So it'll be a quick should be a quick race if it stays green. So it's a Sunday night. I noticed that there's NHRA scheduled for 10, and the main show's at 8. So they're basically saying they can get this in the 2-hour window. So we'll see. But short track. So 100 laps. You got to think you're gonna go pretty quick. One caution, one scheduled caution. Remember in Texas, and there's 5 stages or segments, and none of that crap. It's just one caution around lap 20, so halfway. Here's where the kicker, the little bit of the gray area is you can use one fresh set of new tires in that final 100 laps. That's it. So that's where the dilemma comes. If you get a caution, and this track, which we'll go over in a couple of these odds, probably more comparable to Richmond, Darlington, like we just saw, like high tire fall off. So new tires are going to be king. Well, here's where the strategy play is going to come. If you pit on lap 100, you have 100 laps, and you can only use one set, that final 100. Well, what if a caution comes with 60 to go, and you come down and pit and you get new tires? But what if another one comes with, say, 20 laps to go? You can't put another new set of tires on.
Screwed.
So, yeah. So it's really going to be strategy. Who wants to gamble if there's a later caution or not? Maybe they think, well, we'll probably go green. The reason the format is this way is, like I said, it's an age track, so the tires are going to fall off quicker, and they want it longer runs where they're kind of slipping and sliding and able to get more organic passes. So I like it. It's better than this weird formulas they were doing. I think last year wasn't like the second segment, like fastest pit stop compared with on track. I mean, just all that crap's gone. It's just simplified.
All right.
So
look, and you tell me, but I think the proper way, and I think a lot of the crew chiefs with the best cars too are probably going to wait as long as possible to use up the tires, especially in a short track. It's an all-star race. Everybody's going to be fighting each other. There's going to be cautions, and because they're going to be cautions, why not just wait until the very last possible minute to use those tires?
Yep, you might as well. Or if you're noticing it's getting kind of strung out, maybe you don't get a caution, then it's going to be that when do I pit for that final set, and I could get that not as long of a run to the end, but I'm not too far behind on slip and slide on the older tires. So it's going to be a fascinating strategy race, whether there's a green or whether there's a yellow or not. Plus, you got to look at it's not all the back markers are going to be in this field. It's the All-Star shows. There's probably going to be like 20, 22 cars in the field, so you're not going to get people running over each other unless you get to the end. You want some manufactured drama, maybe you get it, but I think it's pure. I like it. It's a good welcome change compared to what we've had in years past.
Okay, so going over the strategy, and odds are out. Larson's the favorite. Are you surprised Kevin Harvick is the second choice?
No, it's because he's good at Richmond. It's what he did last year. And Phoenix, I'd say probably your other you could probably look to, and we know how good he's at Phoenix. So, no, I'm
So
not.
you're
I'm
going
not
to say
shocked.
Richmond and Phoenix, those are the two tracks that people need to keep an eye on as the most similar to this track on Sunday.
I would because of the fall. Richmond is the absolute closest. Phoenix would be kind of because Phoenix, a lot of what you see at Richmond translates to Phoenix and vice versa. So yeah, I would say those are your two tracks.
All right, and then let's see, Logano is actually one of the top contenders at 9-1 with Bell, and maybe that's not a surprise. We know how Joey Logano likes to win these types of races, but he's now like considered a top contender. So. There's that. Byron and Truex are up there. Hamlin's 11-1, so he's a little bit maybe of a bargain, as is Chastain at 12-1. Chase Elliott is 14-1. Kyle Busch 16, Blaney 18, Reddick 25. So those are like your top drivers. Before we get into the long shots, who do you think is a really good bargain?
I think a bargain. I have Logano. I was gonna make a note of him. I don't like him where he's at because
who's that?
He struggled at Richmond. Logano.
Okay.
Yeah, 17th, 6th, and 7th his last 3 there, so he's just okay. But a weird trend is just 4 times ever has the defending Cup Series champion won the All-Star race the next year.
Okay.
Dale Earnhardt in 87 and 94, Kenseth in 04, Johnson in 13. So I guess it's due. But he's not been great at Richmond, and I didn't like the way he looked at Phoenix. Remember we talked about that.
Sure.
So I didn't like that.
Well, Larson looks awfully good at both.
Yep, Larson. I like Byron. Think about he was the top 2 car at Richmond before he spun late. He won Phoenix.
Yep.
Last time we were at North Wilkesboro, the 24 car won. He's coming off of a win. He seems like he's got a lot of momentum. He's got 3 wins this year, all of them on playoff tracks. I do like Byron. Chastain, 3rd in Richmond this past spring. He's not afraid to ruffle feathers. So what's his odds?
Chastain is 12-1, I believe.
Yeah, that's a good one. What's Truex?
Truex is 10-1.
So not bad. Richmond, remember, if not for that caution, he had the race. Him and Byron were the top 2 cars. That would have been his 9th top 5 finish in his last 10 Richmond tries, 5 top 2s in his last 8. He won the Clash in a football stadium. Why not win the All-Star race? And then I call it an inaugural race. It's not really inaugural. They've raced there 90-some times.
Yeah.
But it's the first time for the next gen of these cars there. So I like Truex. Hamlin, pit road kept him out of Richmond. Prior to that, he was good there. So I think there's some value in those guys, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. There are a lot of – we can excuse a lot of different drivers winning this race. So the question is going to be to just, based on feel and odds. I don't see look, Larson 6-1, he deserves to be, and so does Harvick. But you know what? You're not going to make a whole lot of money with those two. So no. I just think in an all-star race, just have fun with it. I'd probably start at maybe Byron at 10-1. That's probably what I would start at. And then I'd probably think about definitely Chastain at 12-1. Now, what about Elliott, Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney, and Tyler Reddick? What about those 4 between 14 and 25-1?
Unfortunately, I don't like either. Elliott, any of them. Elliott, for the reasons I know I stated last week, but older tracks are not his strong suit. And he really, I feel like, kind of stole the Darlington finish. He was kind of there at the end, but he wasn't. I didn't consider him a top 5 car. I think he kind of lucked out with Chastain and Larson and Truex. Like a lot of guys taking themselves out because I looked at Richmond. He didn't race for this year because of his injury. But 4 of his last 7 Richmond finishes have been 12th or worse. He's 0 for 14 there. 1 top 5 and 7 Atlanta starts before the repave. And Fontana, yes, he was runner-up back in February, but 3 of his previous 4 finishes for 11th or worse. He's 0 for 13 at Darlington. He's just not good on H track, so I don't like him. Kyle has openly said short tracks are their worst tracks this year. So he was 8th at Phoenix, 14th at Richmond, 21st at Martinsville. Richmond we know is not one of Blaney's better tracks. He's 26th this year there. He never had a top 5 in 14 tries.
He won last year anyway. So
exactly.
When was the last time we've had a back-to-back All-Star win? Do you know?
I have it down. Here I say that. So good timing. Davey Allison in 91 and 92.
Oh wow!
Hold on, and Jimmy Johnson in 12 and 13. That's it. That's the only time it's ever happened.
So we'll eliminate Ryan Blaney.
Yep, eliminate him. Reddick has never
Reddick.
been
What
good.
about Reddick?
Never been good at Richmond. Not good on those tracks.
Okay.
I think
Elliott.
you can eliminate.
What's up with Elliott?
Just not good there either.
Really? Okay.
So I also looked. North Wilkesboro, with being similar to Richmond, don't overthink it. The bigger teams, Gibbs, Penske, Hendrick, and Stewart-Haas, have won the last 10 Richmond races and 14 of the last 15. So if this is comparable and we're talking about similar drivers, expect the big names. Plus, I looked at the list of winners at North Wilkesboro, just their most recent races. Gordon, Terry Labonte, Dale Earnhardt, Mark Martin, Rusty Wallace, Davey Allison won 18 of the final 22 races there. They're all Hall of Famers. The only 4 they didn't win were won by the Bodine brothers. So probably a big name is going to win.
Okay.
And also, where I like Byron and Chastain, because I think we can all agree those are probably 2 of your top championship favorites right now. Byron's got 3 wins. Chastain's leading the points. 2 of the last 3 series champions won the All-Star race that season. Elliott won Bristol in 2020, won the championship later that year. Larson won Texas 2021, won the championship that year. So it seems like every time the All-Star race changes tracks, the series champion wins. Byron, I think, right now has got to be your championship favorite, and he's 10-1. So I would almost just go all in on Byron right now, and until you prove otherwise, maybe if practice shows you something this weekend. I really like the fact that a big name on a big team that can win the championship can win this race. So I think the numbers align for him.
So give me your 3 picks.
I'll say Byron. I'll go Byron, Chastain, Larson.
Yeah, I'll do this. Well, you know what? I'll do Byron, Hamlin, and Chastain. Only because I don't want to. And I will say this: if you want to do Larson, you might want to consider maybe even using that in some sort of a parlay situation if you can.
Yeah.
When is the race?
Sunday night, I believe 8 Eastern will be the race.
Okay.
They'll practice. It's a little bit different this year. We'll practice and then qualify. It's not the P&Q. So they'll actually have a own standalone practice session on Friday. So we'll probably see some fall-off data from that. Granted, it's hard to tell because that's the one practice, and they're not going to practice again after, and it's the first practice they've ever had there.
Okay.
So teams can obviously adjust. So it'll be hard to – yes, it'll tell us a lot as far as who looks good on short run and long run, because I think teams will have time to do both. But teams can also adjust.
Sure.
Because they can turn around and qualify the next day. So,
and look, if you want Larson, I think you're probably better off, or one of those favored drivers, you might want to take him before qualifying, because if they do really well, that'll be cut in half.
Yeah, exactly. And
nobody wants to bet on a driver at 3-1. So
no, it's not even worth it, especially because you're basically have to go all in on them winning.
Yeah.
I think right now your values, Larson while he's 5-1. I love that Chastain and Byron are getting double digits right now, because all it takes is one good practice session Friday, and that all changes.
All right, so there you go. And I would say this: if you're thinking about a parlay, let's say you like 2 or 3. Let's say you like one of the top golfers this week in the PGA Championship. Somebody who's got odds like Scotty Scheffler. He's the favorite at 7-1. If you like him, then maybe do a Larson Scheffler parlay.
There you go.
And then you can make a little bit of money on that. So
yeah, that's probably your key. Or if you find matchups, the drivers that I mentioned that have not been good on age tracks, those might be a way to go.
Okay.
If you find the driver you like that's matched up against them, parlay some of those. That could probably work too.
Okay.
So there's some options, but this is definitely an oddball weekend, just because it's, for one, it's All-Star race. 2, the field's condensed, and 3, they haven't raced there since 1996. So,
are you going to have like a final report on the website regarding maybe your final analysis?
Yeah, probably over the weekend.
Okay.
Probably leading into it. So yeah.
All right. So now, let's talk about what happened last week or on Sunday. And look, first half of the race, you could have taken a nap and missed nothing. Yep. You just hoped something was going to. Cautions usually that's how you hope to change things, and that's exactly what happened. And so we were able to get a few changes. But what really started it all was the ridiculous decision by Martin Truex Jr. to, I don't know, care about stage points.
Yeah.
I mean, all he had to do at that point, he's dominating the race. I don't care what was going on with Chastain as far as leading some laps there. I mean, everybody knew at that point Truex was the best car. All he had to do is just stay away from trouble. Don't have bad pit stops. You have the first stall, which is great. And he did the exact thing he shouldn't have done. It's like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? So once that happened, which I was happy for because I didn't bet him, I was like, awesome, because he went from potentially first or second to 10th or whatever. And then once he got into dirty air, he was done, just like most of the other cars. So that opened things up. And then all of a sudden, we had a pretty interesting second half of the race. And of course, we had the crazy end. See, this is the difference between fantasy and picking races each week. Yep. My two drivers on my fantasy team, Larson and Chastain, going up again. Now, I did have a little bit of money on Chastain, so I did lose there too. But I had more money on Byron, and Harvick, who had the advantage of restarting first and second after the wreck. So I got killed on fantasy, but I made up for it by making some money. But really, that scenario, those two restarts, it was so weird because it's like neither driver wanted the outside, and it's like, I get it, I really do, because you knew that whoever they knew they were going to get pushed around, and it's like, yeah, but that's the better position to be in. Force the issue, let them force the issue. I'm taking the outside. I don't care what happens, and neither driver wanted it, and we had an accident, which was kind of exciting. I guess it was kind of cool.
Yeah, it goes to show how random nature these NASCAR races can become. With you get that late fluke caution, and Larson, he had that race won before that caution, like 20 to go, and he won. And then you get that, and then you get two more cautions, and the top two guys at that point, probably the final stage, take each other out, and it's just like. Then Byron, who comes out of nowhere. Granted, he got redemption for last year because last year he got taken out by Logano late in the race to win that thing. So I can see where bettors would be very frustrated. Like, I had Larson or I had Chastain. What in the hell? Like, it's 5 to go. What are they thinking?
That's the first time this season I had something like that work in my favor.
Yep, we all won because of Byron doing that.
Yes.
But it was definitely.
Well, what do you think about?
Definitely weird.
Because a lot of people seem to be blaming Chastain. And I understand the whole idea of he's definitely the wild card out there. And I don't know. Here's the thing that I'm not happy about. I got to hear that Kyle Larson is so upset that he's not speaking to anybody after the race. Okay, wait a second. So you're that upset that you won't speak to the media. And after what happened the week before when you guys sent Noah Gragson out there to confront Chastain, and because you guys wouldn't do it, well, if Kyle Larson was really frustrated at Ross, I don't know if he was, I haven't heard from him, maybe you could tell me if he's spoken yet, but if he was really frustrated at Chastain, then take care of business right there. Go ahead and confront him.
Yeah, I'm sure he said he's not a fighter, so I get that, but you don't have to fight to use at least word. I mean, nobody's saying you have to go have violence. But I do know he was mad. I thought it was telling Rick Hendrick spoke up in the press conference about Chastain. And at first, to me, it looks more somewhat of a racing deal. I thought both were going hard for the win.
Yes.
And then Chastain admitted that it was his fault. So I was like, okay, he took responsibility. I do think it's twofold. I thought it was a little strange that Justin Marks said that I've already sat down and talked to Chastain about, all right, now it's becoming a problem. We need to talk to him. It's like, well, wait a minute. We want Ross to be aggressive. You don't want to have to reel him in too much. So I'm kind of curious what that's going to look like. Was Justin Marks told by Chevrolet to do that? Because Rick Hendrick said that he doesn't care if it's a Chevy driver. He feels like Marks should talk to him. Chevrolet should step in. And I thought it was interesting that Marks and Trackhouse stepped in when they originally said they weren't going to step in. They liked it. So I'm curious about that angle of why they're stepping in now. Because I think that's what makes Ross Chastain Ross Chastain.
Yes.
He is aggressive.
Can't change him.
And now if he starts slowing down, what does that do? Because right now, like it or not, fan or not of Chastain, He's must-see TV. He's worth the price of admission. I went back and looked. Did you know 8 of the last 10 weeks, Ross Chastain has had a hand in something during a cup race? Phoenix. It wasn't his fault, but Denny Hamlin, remember the payback? Hamlin got penalized for talking Chastain that week. Atlanta. Harvick. Remember Harvick spun off Chastain's nose on the restart. Harvick didn't blame Chastain, but we're all talking, Chastain was aggressive late again. Coda. Chastain pushed Bowman into Suarez. Suarez, remember, he paid back Bowman, not realizing it was his teammate that pushed Bowman into him. We're talking teammate drama. Richmond, Christopher Bell spins late restart, blames Ross Chastain when Chastain actually didn't touch him, but Chastain's in his head. Barnesville and Bristol, the only 2 races that he really didn't have anything going on for him then. Then you got Gregson at Talladega. That incident, late, we talked about that. Kyle Larson gets T-boned. You got Larson in Dover because Chastain spun Brandon Poole up into Kyle Larson. Gregson 2 weeks ago in Kansas, and now Chastain again with Larson. So every race, he's overly aggressive. That's what we're talking in most of these situations. He's overly aggressive, and a lot of times it's a late race restart. But aren't you supposed to in NASCAR now? Isn't that what you want?
Yes.
Isn't that what the playoff system has said?
Yep.
Don't you want that villain? And now you're basically saying, hey, we sat him down. We need to calm him down. Hello, he's leading the points.
Yeah, right. Calm down. Yeah. Calm down, man.
Yeah. He's must-see TV. This is what you want. Now it's creating a rivalry. Leave him alone. This is what makes him good, because now, let's say he second guesses that. Let's say he doesn't go for that win. Where does he finish? So I think you're taking an element away from.
What did you think about that the decisions and those last 2 restarts? Were you surprised that Larson didn't want the outside?
I was, because I feel you've got to go for the win, right? Wasn't that movie The Replacements with Keanu Reeves when that Gene Hackman was like, the winners want the ball in their hands in the end? Shouldn't you want the ball in the end? Take the outside lane, take the preferred lane, and if you get wrecked, you get wrecked, but at least you tried. Because to me, I think you go the opposite way, you're just looking for trouble.
Yes.
I think that opens the door. So yeah, I thought both was kind of baffling. When the outside lane's preferred lane, you choose the inside lane, afraid somebody's going to retaliate against you. So I did find that interesting. I also found it interesting that how NASCAR didn't put Chase Elliott and I believe it was Harvick and Justin Haley. They let them keep their spots when they were caught up in a wreck, but Bubba Wallace and a couple other guys avoid the wreck, and they said they were speeding and put it behind the guys that were in the wreck. I thought NASCAR completely fumbled that. Okay. I thought they fumbled the restart.
Yeah, I was confused by that, yeah.
Yep, I thought they fumbled the restart where Chastain clearly beat Larson to the line, and it was clear as day. The broadcast showed it, but they let Chastain keep the lead. I thought NASCAR's decision-making at the end as far as timing and scoring was baffling, to say the least.
Okay. All right. So in the last 5 minutes, let's go over the futures right now, championship futures. And I'm not sure if we're going to have them next week unless, if they change them for whatever reason because of the All-Star race, which I doubt, we will not have futures next week. But right now, when you take a look at your futures, you have over 14,000 invested, and you have 5 drivers that you could either break even or ahead on. Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney, Ross Chastain, Kevin Harvick, and Chase Briscoe. You're pretty close with Denny Hamlin. And you're behind a little bit with Larson, Byron, Elliott, Truex, Kyle Busch, and Reddick even. Joey Logano's not that far off. So you do have a lot of work to do. What are you happy about, and what do you really feel like you've got some work to do and you're a little bit maybe feeling like you're behind the 8 ball with?
I'm happy with the 5 I got. I want to work a little more on Hamlin and Larson. I'm going to punt more on Kyle now that I'm somewhat close, because with him keeps saying the short track program and they're not showing much, I just don't think it's in the cards for a championship this year at this moment. I did earlier in the year. Short tracks, and that's where it's going to be won at now that we get to the fall. I mean, we know he's in the playoffs. Once we get to the fall, unless they make a drastic jump, I want to work more on the other guys. I feel like I've spent too much on him. Byron, I do legitimately think this guy's got something. Yeah. I know we talked about it last week about the playoff tracks. and Hendrick. And here's the third win for Byron. Larson's been right there, too. So I think Hendrick right now, those two are probably your favorites. Chastain, 3. And I like that Bell, Truex, Hamlin kind of combo for that fourth spot. Logano, I'm not really seeing it, so I think him I could fade a little bit more. But and then Briscoe, Harvick, you never know what you're going to get out of Stewart-Haas camp when you get later in the year. We know what Harvick can do on those tracks. So pleasantly pleased with it right now, because I know in years past I've only had like 1 or 2 drivers at this time. So pleasantly surprised I've got 5
All
right
right,
now.
if you had to, last question regarding this then, if you had to start now and just based on the odds, advise the viewers what to do, what would you be looking at? You have, who did you pick to win the championship this year?
Was it Larson? I think Larson.
Did you pick
or
Larson?
Larson. I need to go back and look.
All right.
I can't remember exactly my pick now.
Well, who do you think right now? I mean, I think Denny Hamlin at 8-1. I think that is a pretty good. I think that's a pretty good spot. Let's see. By the way, I'm going over your picks here. You had. Is this year? Yeah, this is this year. It looks like you had Chase Elliott.
Okay, Elliott. I knew it was a Hendrick guy. It might have been Elliott. I think yeah.
Chase Elliott, and your final 4: Bell, Elliott, Hamlin, Larson.
I think I like it still. I think they could still get those 4. I just think Chevy on short tracks they're just better than everybody else right now. I like how the Hendrick camps on the 1.5 have positioned themselves that look arguably the best. That round of 8 when you got Homestead and Vegas in it, that I think you could get 2 guys into the championship 4. So now, granted, Elliott's still got to make the playoffs. He's still got to get a win. I think he will at some point. Hendrick just looks good. So I would look at Phoenix and Richmond to see who was good at those tracks, because we've already raced there and we've got some data to look at. And Phoenix being the championship race, because at the end of the day, to pick a champion, you're going to have to win Phoenix. So that's kind of what I'd look at, and I would look at the 1.5 for the round of 8 and see who's good at those tracks. Because to win a championship in Phoenix, you first have to get to the championship in Phoenix. So that's why I look at Martinsville too.
That's why Larson's in good shape.
Yeah, so that's why I think Larson's in good shape. We know what Elliott can do. But right now, I would say my championship favorite is Byron, just for obvious reasons. He's won on everything. I mean, he's won at Vegas, he's won at Phoenix, and he just won at Darlington. So I feel like he can get through the championship 4. And right now, they're just bar none the best team on short track.
And I think right now, a really good way, like if you want to try to take advantage of the odds, what I would do is, I think it would be even just a good idea to say, you know what, I'm going to put money on 4 drivers, all 4 drivers who are 15-1.
Yep.
Blaney, Chastain, Harvick, and Reddick. They could all win the championship, and they're all getting 15-1.
Yeah, jump on them now. Yeah.
Those are the best bargains, without a doubt, right now.
Yep.
So keep an eye on that for sure. Next week, I'm not sure if CJ is going to join us. We're hoping his schedule will permit himself to join us. Hopefully that'll be the case, because we have a big Sunday coming up, a week from Sunday, of course. You've got all the F1 has what, Monaco?
Yes, Monaco.
Right.
Yep.
Indy, of course, and the Coke 600. So that's all coming up. So next week's going to be a big week. It's going to be a big week for your website, I'm sure, as well.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll be talking to CJ. I will be talking to CJ, by the way, on Friday. So we'll have an F1 report for the race on Sunday. Where is that? Is it Mola? Is that a country?
It's a town in Italy.
Oh, I should know, being Italian, but I don't. All right, so that's coming up on Friday. Everything else, you can check the website, racereviewonline.net, and we'll be back next week to talk more about the All-Star race, about next week's, and then if CJ's on, we can kind of do like maybe even a midway kind of point, even though I know it's not the midway. Maybe it kind of is, but it is, isn't it? Like the regular season midway point?
Yeah, we're there right now. 13 races in.
Okay.
So,
So hopefully we'll do a midway kind of report with CJ if we can get him on next week. And we also want to just, in closing, thank our viewers John DeRosa donated some more money this week. So thanks, John. Appreciate the donations. All you have to do is click the thanks icon to donate. And he also made some comments. Great content like that. Bobby Ferguson and Donald Veal commented. Mark Simmons, by the way, wanted to make sure that, you said, hope you're feeling better. Eric.
Thank you. Yes, I meant to comment on that. Thank you. Much better. Much, much better.
And he loves watching the NASCAR previews weekly, so we appreciate that as well. And we've got some people, some of those viewers who are also putting in some of their picks. So appreciate the viewers as always. And yep. Eric, enjoy your time with your son this afternoon at the track.
You. Yeah, as long as it's clear. So I think we might get some track time. So bring the kids out here before I get even busier. I had let's see, I think there's 11 drivers I talked to this morning.
Wow.
So I have a lot of features up. I got 11 more tomorrow, and then 11 more the day after that. So I'll have, actually, no, 12, because we have 34 entries. So I will talk to all 34 Indy 500 drivers between now and this time in 48 hours.
I hope their agents are noticing this.
They're doing a good job. This morning was inside because it was raining, so I figured I usually the opening day take an afternoon to be a dad, let the kids see some cars with them, and then get real busy as the week goes on to where I'm home less, here more, and so that way at least have a little bit of fun, bring back the kid memories out here, buying some merchandise.
They have, they have to have their own.
Yeah, exactly. So my wallet may not be too happy, but my heart will be. I guess that's what matters. They will too, and I get. Plus, when they're playing their little cars at home, it gives me more time to crank out these driver features. So yeah, it should be a good afternoon with them.
Are we going to talk to you this week regarding IndyCar?
Yeah, I figured probably I'll look at the schedule, doing maybe a show maybe Thursday or
when
something.
When is the next
maybe
practice?
They'll practice all week.
All week, okay.
6. Yep, 12 to 6 every day. Qualifying Saturday and Sunday. So
all right.
Probably do a qualifying preview show for sure.
So there you go. Possibility that we'll have Eric talking IndyCar live from the track later this week. But either way, we'll be talking a bunch more between now and the Indy 500. Take advantage of the locale. Again, Eric, appreciate your time as always. Make sure those agents know that you're hustling so we can get these one-on-one interviews sometime soon.
Oh, absolutely. Yep, definitely.
That's that would be cool. And we'll talk to you next week here on our NASCAR show.
Sounds good. Will do.